Hello, my name's Lesley Atherton, and this is a short story based on an actual true experience of myself and being trained for a telesales job. It's called Impossible Work Situation. I took a deep breath, opened the door and walked into the office, pretending my head was firmly and confidently perched on my shoulders, but it wasn't. I looked around, mouth communicating silent hellos with workmates who were keen to get their day started and who were already chatting with ease on their phones. I didn't have that ease. In fact, I'd spent my journey to work crying in agony at the thought of my desk and my phone. I worked in telesales. Me, in telesales. I know, but needs must sometimes. When I was offered the job, it was because my new employers could tell I was trainable and had potential. And yes, my training and induction went so well. When speaking to my fellow trainees on pretend sales calls, I was enthusiastic, friendly, polite and compelling. I made sales amongst our newly trained team and I came top in the class. I even received accolades. Rebecca, you will be Sales Girl of the Year and a saleswoman par excellence. That's what my boss told me. But two of the most crucial characteristics required for telesales are a thick skin and a love of telephony, and I had neither. Being highly sensitive and empathic, my worst nightmare was ringing potential customers out of the blue because I knew that they would not be welcoming my call and would be trying to get me off the line so they could carry on earning money. And I, in that shabby North Yorkshire office, was tasked with the telephone selling of adverts in a freely distributed weekly paper to local traders. I would ring them in the middle of their working days and take up 10 minutes of their precious time trying to sell them something that they didn't want. And how did I know they didn't want it? Well, to me it was pretty obvious. If they'd wanted it, they would have likely gone looking for it themselves. Of course, the best salespeople all claim that customers don't know they want what you're selling until you try to sell it to them. But I was not one of those great salespeople. My training had ill-prepared me for ringing up people who patently didn't want the disturbance. The North York's advertiser's office was small and shabby, and my journey there, 4 stops on a local train, was by far the best part of my working day. Many was the time that I willed myself to get knocked down by a truck or to suffer a near-fatal heart attack so I wouldn't have to take those final steps to our glass-fronted office where I'd be on show and on the phone for 8 miserable, impossible hours. 25 years later, I'm experienced enough in the ways of work and of life to realise that I was not a failure as a human being or destined to be unable to get employment for the rest of my life. I was simply ill-suited for that particular job, as many people realise themselves to be every day. I should have handed in my notice. I should have moved on. I didn't have children, and my rented flat was part paid for by my partner. We could have managed for a little while and had little to lose. But instead, I wished grievous injuries on myself and prayed the gods would bring fires and floods down on the office. I even hated going into the office's brew room because the girls in there would giggle and natter, and I just wanted silence and escape from the constant fake and ultra-smiley talk of our workplace. I craved quiet and calm, but I didn't get it. If I never saw a telephone again, I would have been delighted. My dream job would consist of a paperwork inbox and outbox. I would have control of my own tasks and wouldn't have to ring up plumbers and carpet warehouses all day long. One day things came to a head. My boss, a curly-haired, falsely cheery woman whose cherubic face belied her toughness, took me to one side. "Rebecca," she said, "no sales this week. 1 sale last week. What's going on? Are you having problems at home? You showed such promise in training." She did the worst thing, and the only thing that could ever have broken through my veneer of normalcy. She'd been nice, and I couldn't hide my feelings anymore. I told her I couldn't do it and that I hated doing it. I whispered that the phone to me was an instrument of torture. I told her that the constant voices that invaded my head from the moment I came through the door at 8:50 till the moment I left at 5:05, that the deadlines and the targets and the bonuses and the high fives when the colleagues sold a full pager had combined and conspired to make me miserable and semi-suicidal. I was in too much of a state to even apologise for wasting her training course. She sighed and said, "Oh well, That explains a lot. We always get them, at least 1 or 2 in every batch of trainees. The people who will themselves to change their personalities for the sake of the job. It isn't going to work, Rebecca. I think it's your time to leave us, don't you? I couldn't look at her, just held my head in my hands and burst into tears. I sniffed at this woman I'd been so afraid of, who was now giving me reasons not to be afraid. She got up from her chair and patted me on the back. We expect it, Rebecca, and we don't take it personally. This work isn't for everyone. Just for one short, sweet moment, I wanted to stay there, to try harder, to see if I could manage it just for her. It seemed less impossible now I knew somebody understood. But she wasn't giving me the opportunity. Go on, Rebecca. Get gone, she said kindly. I'll post your wages tomorrow. Go find something you like better. You spend a long day at work. You might as well enjoy it. Unsure of how I was feeling, scared, elated, nervous, I walked back into the office and a couple of faces between calls looked up at me. You off then? One girl asked. I am, I said. Thank Christ for that. The only person who didn't realise how bad at sales you were was you. I grabbed my coat. It was a sign of how little I felt at home there that, unlike all the other girls who had desks filled with personal photos and custom mugs, pink fluffy pens and fancy notebooks, there was nothing of me there. And as I walked out, the most successful member of the sales team shouted to me, "See you, Becky, give us a ring sometime." I nodded in agreement, but both of us knew that no call would ever be made. Their world was not my world. We breathed different brands of rarefied air. I found another job in less than a week. It was poorly paid reception work, but was virtually stress-free, and my only target was to get all messages to intended recipients speedily and without fail. I was good. I progressed well, and soon, in addition to my receptionist duties, I was put in charge of processing completed forms and other paperwork. At long last, I had my inbox and outbox. I can't say I was blissed out, happy as Larry, or ambitiously satisfied. It was just a receptionist clerk job at a solicitor's office that was even smaller and grubbier than the telesales office. I probably spent just as much time on the phone, but it was different there. I was able to assist callers, and I didn't interfere with their working lives. Feeling the fear and doing it anyway is a great technique, and it is certainly possible to change behaviours and attitudes and skill sets. But you can't change your fundamental personality. So when I hear someone claim that salespeople are born, not made, I get that. I know it's true because I've seen it with my own eyes. I was not born a salesperson, and no efforts to transform me into one would ever have succeeded.